Good morning and welcome back to Consider This Program. I am your host, Joe Clark.
And I'm Angi Kinser.
So here's the deal, Ange.
Okay.
I'm just going to fess up. I have a 3-minute conversation that I need to make last longer than that.
Okay.
But I need you to understand it's more important than the 12 minutes I'm given to be able to address the issue. Okay? So we're going to start off with conflict of interest. So what is a conflict of interest, Ms. Kinser?
Well, I know that from an attorney's standpoint, if maybe I know you or I've represented someone that you're going against, or there's a reason that I shouldn't represent you or be involved there because maybe I would be partial, then it's a conflict of interest.
And so what do you have to do about that?
Step down.
No, not always. You have to acknowledge that.
Oh, you
now,
have to acknowledge
you cannot simultaneously represent me and somebody else at the same time that are going against each other.
I don't know that you could represent me and then say maybe have represented my spouse, ex-spouse.
Probably
at the
not.
same time.
That would probably be an insurmountable,
Yes.
conflict of interest. The point is, we all have conflicts. We all have conflicts of interest, and one of those conflicts is understanding anytime I benefit from making a decision, by definition, there was a conflict that I should have disclosed. So Angie walks into me and she's got a 401k and she is not 55 years old and she is ready to retire or she's being separated from the workforce. And I look at her and her opportunities for future jobs are not that great, right? I don't know why, but they're not that great. So you may need to use this money, right? Now, what happens in most cases, remember about 90% of the United States does not. I shouldn't set that up as a negative, should I? 10% of the population uses a fiduciary. Fiduciaries still have a conflict of interest. If I tell Angie to roll the money from her 401k into an IRA that I manage, I am still getting a benefit from that because we're taking on a new household, right? Mm-hmm. We're managing more money and you're going to pay me, right? Now, my job is to demonstrate effectively why this is still in your best interest because of all the planning stuff we do with the 5 critical elements, the next steps meeting, the Better Giver program, helping with all of that other stuff, working with your CPA, right? Using the 5 critical elements. It's my job to demonstrate that, yes, there is a conflict of interest, but the value that you get supersedes what it is you're losing, okay?
Okay.
Now, here's the problem. Most people who sell things, annuities, mutual funds, places like that, don't get paid if money stays in Angie's 401k. Right now, we're trustees. We're able to manage money in 401ks. We do it for people literally all over the place where the money's still in the other 401k plan. We're just able to manage it, right? Here is the problem in Angie's situation. We talked about her needing the income. And if she rolls the money, even under the guidance of a broker or somebody else who told her it was a good idea, or herself, if she rolls that money into an IRA, once it's in the IRA, she cannot touch any of it without a 10% federal penalty until she's 59 and a half, dead or disabled. And try getting it when you're dead, right? Yeah. Right. So, you're just stuck. You're right. You're limited there because somebody else had a conflict of interest that they either didn't understand or didn't care about. They just wanted you to move money from the 401k into this annuity program because of all of the things that it offers today. Inside of the 401k, ladies and gentlemen, when you think about the Department of Labor, and if you could see me, if you weren't on the radio, you'd see me drawing the circle, the sun, the Department of Labor comes up with these rules. And your 401k plan or your 403b plan can have any of those rules. It can't add extra rules. It's important to understand that. I was driving down the road the other day and I heard somebody on the radio say that you could borrow money out of your 401k plan. No, that's a rule the Department of Labor says you can do. It doesn't mean that it's in every 401k plan. right? Just because the Department of Labor says you can does not mean that you always can. It depends on your plan document in terms of what's there, right? So you have to be careful with one of those rules. But one of the 401k rules that can be available is that if you retire, if you separate from service, so you quit, you got a buyout, you got fired, you were scared to death of COVID. We just had that happen. A lady was 58 and said, I am not going back, right? Had money in the 401k, right? The initial thing is to move the money from the 401k into an IRA at TD Ameritrade or Schwab where we manage money. And I, whoa. What's her cash flow like? Well, in this case, she had a few $100,000 in cash in a bank account, right? Didn't matter. Move it to the IRA, get it under the appropriate management and take care of it. But let's say she didn't have the money. Let's go back to Angie's example. You're 53, right? And you're going to need some of this income, right? For me to move it out of the IRA is grossly negligible. Or move it out of the 401k rather, because you're subjecting yourself to a 10% federal penalty for no reason. Now, between 53 and 55, you're going to want to have another source of money coming in. Right? But maybe it's 2020 and maybe we're in the middle of a pandemic and maybe you're used to making $100,000 a year and suddenly this year you're only going to make 20% or 20,000, right? Suddenly you're in the 10% tax bracket, right? Your tax rate, even with the penalty this year, is less than what your tax rate would be normally, right? So there's all sorts of planning stuff that needs to take place there, folks. And that's one of the things that we work on with our families is it's our tax planning checklist. It's getting ready to come out in the middle of October. It's something that we share with the families that we work with to make sure that they have looked for the questions that are there. The article that I wrote for the Herald Bulletin for this week that you'll see on Saturday morning or Sunday morning whenever they publish the one paper that comes out on the weekend now, talks about income variability. And, that's what you're looking for. When you talk about annual tax planning, what you're really trying to uncover is income variability from this year, a change of filing status, or a change in a trigger or transition, if you will, inside of your life, right? And so, you got married, you got divorced, somebody passed away, so you've got those kind of issues that are out there. You lost your job, you got a huge bonus, you inherited money. So income variability, change in filing status are the two things. Here's what you need to take away. If you are under 59 and a half, and you have money in a 401k, and you may need to use some of that money before you get a new job, you do not let somebody convince you should roll all of the money out of the plan. It doesn't make sense. Now, there are reasons why I can tell you that it does make sense, but in most of the case, you really want to make sure that you're careful here. Remember my favorite quotation, right? There's two tax codes. It doesn't make sense. Now, there are reasons who is uninformed inform you.
So this IRS rule 55, is that something new out of this? Okay, so that's something that's
First time we did it, a guy retired from, I believe it was Borg Warner, retired at 57, and we took enough income so that he was able to stay in his 401k he had enough income in his 401k for 2 years. And the rest we rolled to an IRA. When he got through with the 2 years, and he was now 59 and a half, we rolled the rest of it out.
Chris has a question. Is there any reasoning to why the tax code varies between the Department of Labor plans and IRAs? I mean, why not make it uniform?
Yes, because I tried to explain this to President Obama on multiple occasions through the TV. He did not pay attention. When they stood up and they talked about the fiduciary rule, and they talked about IRAs and 401ks in the same sentence. They are not in the same sentence. A 401k is a Department of Labor plan. Most 403bs, though not all of them, are Department of Labor plans. IRAs are under an entirely different code. They have entirely different rules. They have some extreme similarities. But for instance, the amount of money you can contribute to a 401k is much greater than into an IRA. There is no income restriction on contributing to a 401k and a Roth. There is inside of a Roth IRA. So there's many, many similarities. Chris, I can be your beneficiary on your IRA. Your wife has to be your beneficiary on your 401k unless she signs off after the marriage, right? There are just many, many, many nuances that are there. And every time you see the courts try to bring them together, you have people cringe because they know in the back room the change in the differences in their structures, creditor protection, bankruptcy protection, ability to roll money into different places, and a whole slew of other things.
Does the Rule 55 apply to previous employers, like older 401ks?
It does, as long as their plan document allowed for it, right? So that's one thing. And second thing, remember, if you move money out of a 401k into an IRA and you go back to work and the place has a 401k, sometimes you can roll the 401k money back into an IRA. The Rule of 55, however, does not work with an IRA. You have to get it back into a 401k plan. So in some odd cases, it's even worth opening up a company, creating a 401k, rolling your IRA into the 401k to be able to go through the process, depending on the amount of income that you need to get out. There's more than one way to skin a cat most times, but there are two tax codes, and don't forget that. I mean, I know I get paid to manage money, and I know that's what our focus is, but understanding the planning and the way we were able to work with CPAs and tax attorneys to be able to make sure that stuff's in line really is our calling card. We help reduce financial regrets. So get signed up for your next step meeting. Call Angi at 800-928-4001 or go to our website at yourlifeafterwork.com. Get signed up for the Market Carver and get your next steps meeting booked. We'll spend 90 minutes with you where we'll give you things you're going to want to consider today, things you're going to want to consider in the future, and if we choose to partner together, things that FEG will do for you, and we'll put it in writing. 800-928-4001.